Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Disney. Disney ruins their company with a 100% woke score from the Human Rights Campaign. This is how Disney is able to turn its company from a classic American company with great opportunities and great brands for all Americans into a complete and total mess. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from Disney itself, an official press release, Disney earns perfect score in HRC Foundation's 2023 to 2024 Corporate Equality Index. Well, equality is great and everybody loves it, but that's not quite what this is. This is what the Corporate Equality Index is. Human Rights Campaign's Foundation's Corporate Equality Index is the national benchmarking tool on corporate policies, practices, and benefits pertinent to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer employees. This is the standard that is given to big companies that are told, here, do this, operate your company exactly this way to push our agenda and to promote what we want promoted. Obviously, Disney has fallen into that trap, and that's why even in just the last year, the company has lost $70 billion in stock market value. Just since last year. From the New York Post, inside the CEI system pushing brands to endorse celebrities like Dylan Mulvaney. And this is exactly the Corporate Equality Index that we're talking about. Let's take a look at Disney's release. Building on its legacy of workplace inclusion and support for the broader LGBT community, the Walt Disney Company received a perfect score on the Human Rights Campaign Foundation's 2023 to 2024 Corporate Equality Index, the CEI, the nation's foremost benchmarking survey and report measuring corporate policies and practices related to LGBT workplace equality. Disney's efforts in satisfying all the CEI's criteria earned the designation as an Equity 100 award winner. Disney first achieved a perfect score in 2007 and has received a 100% rating ever since. So we may not have seen it much in 2007, 2008, but it was getting worse and worse over time. I'll bet Ike Perlmutter wishes he knew they were doing this before he sold them the Marvel company. Quote, creating workplaces where employees can be their authentic selves is one of our most important aims toward inclusion, said Tanisha Agramonte, Senior Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer at the Walt Disney Company. As an avid and long-standing champion of LGBT communities, families, and fans, Disney continues to deepen our support through emblematic content, community advocacy, and inclusion in the workplace and beyond. And what's interesting about this statement is Disney proclaiming right up front, it's about changing the content to meet the Corporate Equity Index, which is why you need to have characters, stories, and brands that only promote lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people. That is Disney's future. So for anyone thinking about investing in Disney, until the management changes and they remove this policy, you are taking a risk way beyond any kind of normal business risk. There was no vote on this with shareholders. There were no public statements saying, look, we've got to change all of our content to meet this CEI index. There was no warning. They just went and did it. The CEI rates companies on detailed criteria falling under 4 central pillars. 1, workplace protections. 2, inclusive benefits. 3, internal training and inclusive culture. 4, corporate social responsibility. Maybe the issue about the content being changed to meet the CEI index is hidden inside of corporate social responsibility. I don't see anything on this list that says they're supposed to destroy all of their brands and try to make them all mean something different than how they were originally conceived and sold to the public. 2 new elements of the CEI's criteria focus on companies adopting gender transition guidelines with supportive policies and documentation guidance and workplace policies that provide a safe and affirming experience for transgender and non-binary workers. Quote, for well over 2 decades, businesses have played an important role in furthering LGBT equality by centering employee needs and voices when it comes to workplace inclusion, said Rashawn Shawnee Hawkins, Human Rights Campaign Senior Director of Workplace Equality. While there is much more work to be done, year-over-year growth in CEI participation is evidence of a business community that recognizes the responsibility and value in upholding equity and inclusion. This should really be a massive lawsuit because there isn't even, aside from there not being a vote, so that the people who actually own the company could make the decision if they want to be part of this political ideology, this progressive agenda that certainly isn't dictated to be done by law. It's just cultural Marxism. But there's no accounting for the cost of doing all of this. There's no accounting for how much did you actually damage the brands to make them force fit into CEI? How much is Marvel worth now versus what it was worth even just in 2019? It's not worth more. It's definitely worth less. Same with Star Wars. What's Marvel going to be worth in 5 years? What's the Star Wars brand going to be worth in 5 years? What's Indiana Jones worth now that they spent $320 million on that last movie? It completely flopped. How would you put a value on the brand knowing that anytime you use that brand, it has to comply with the CEI index? The answer to that is you can't ascribe a value to it because things are going to get worse and worse and worse for these brands unless Bob Iger and his board of directors lose control of the company and they get away from this. In the last decade, Disney has championed LGBT communities and families through charitable grants and program support to organizations serving the LGBT community, advanced program policies and resources to build a culture of belonging for LGBT employees, and infuse content and experiences with more rich LGBT stories. Well, we did notice that last part already, but thanks for the confirmation. Through employee service and company donations, Disney is a longtime supporter of organizations that support the LGBT community and work toward equality, including Out and Equal Workplace Advocates, the Trevor Project, which is a very controversial organization, Family Equality, GLAAD, and the HRC itself. And for more context on the CEI system, from the New York Post, inside the CEI system pushing brands to endorse celebrities like Dylan Mulvaney. Executives at companies like Nike, Anheuser-Busch, and Kate Spade, whose brand endorsements have turned controversial trans influencer Dylan Mulvaney into today's fake woke it girl, aren't just virtue signaling. They're handing out lucrative deals to what were once considered fringe celebrities because they have to, or risk failing an all-important social credit score that could make or break their business. At stake is their Corporate Equality Index, or CEI score, which is overseen by the Human Rights Campaign, the largest LGBT political lobbying group in the world. HRC, which has received millions from George Soros' Open Society Foundation, among others, issues report cards for America's biggest corporations via the CEI, awarding or subtracting points for how well the companies adhere to what HRC calls its rating criteria. Businesses that attain the maximum 100 points earn the coveted title Best Place to Work for LGBT Equality, and 15 of the top 20 Fortune-ranked companies received 100% ratings last year, according to HRC data. Disney was one of them. More than 840 companies racked up high CEI scores, according to the latest report. The HRC, which was formed in 1980, started the CEI in 2002, is led by Kelly Robinson, who was named as president in 2022 and worked as a political organizer for Barack Obama's 2008 presidential campaign. The HRC lists 5 major rating criteria, each with its own lengthy subsets for companies to gain or lose CEI points. Here's their woke ratings. 1. Workforce protections. No discrimination for employment for sexual orientation or gender identity. 2. Inclusive benefits. Criteria here includes providing healthcare for same-sex couples. 3. Supporting an inclusive culture, including gender-neutral dress codes and trans-inclusive restrooms and facilities policies. 4. Corporate social responsibility. Marketing or advertising to LGBT consumers, which would include Nike and Bud Light's use of transgender spokesperson Dylan Mulvaney. 5. Responsible citizenship. Points deducted if a company gives money to organizations whose primary mission includes advocacy against LGBT equality, which is not defined but could include Christian groups. A company can lose CEI points if it doesn't fulfill HRC's demand for integration of intersectionality in professional development, skills-based or other training, or if it doesn't use a supplier diversity program with demonstrated effort to include certified LGBT suppliers. That supplier diversity program, we've covered that before, That means that they choose certain suppliers over other suppliers. That is forced discrimination on the company and an unfair business practice. James Lindsay, a political podcaster who runs a site called New Discourses, told the Post that the Human Rights Campaign administers the CEI ranking like an extortion racket like the mafia. It doesn't just sit back passively either. HRC sends representatives to corporations every year telling them what kind of stuff they have to make visible at the company. They give them a list of demands, and if they don't follow through, there's a threat that you won't keep your CEI score. The CEI is a lesser-known part of the burgeoning ESG, environmental, social, and corporate governance, ethical investing movement, increasingly pushed by the country's top 3 investment firms. ESG funds invest in companies that oppose fossil fuels, push for unionization, and stress racial and gender equity over merit in hiring and board selection. As a result, some American CEOs are more concerned about pleasing BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street Bank, who are among the top shareholders of most American publicly traded corporations, than they are about irritating conservatives, numerous sources told the Post. The big fund managers like BlackRock all embrace this ESG orthodoxy in how they apply pressure to top corporate management teams and boards, and they determine in many cases executive compensation and bonuses and who gets re-elected or reappointed to boards. Entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, who is running for president and wrote Woke Incorporated Inside America's Social Justice Scam, told the Post, they can make it very difficult for you if you don't abide by their agendas. These board positions, so to be on Disney's board, to be on another public company's board, of course, they're all compensated differently. In most cases, people are paid a couple of $100,000 a year for very little actual work. It's also powerful for people's resumes, helps with networking, and helps people to get other board positions. Sometimes they're even granted stock or granted options. It depends on the company. But the people that like to get the benefits of being on a board aren't going to want to get thrown off that board. Similarly, executives are often compensated based on meeting these CEI index or ESG goals and scores. So their personal income, their personal bonuses are incentivized by these ratings and scores. In 2018, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, who oversees assets worth $8.6 trillion and has been called the face of ESG, wrote a now infamous letter to CEOs titled A Sense of Purpose that pushed a new model of governance in line with ESG values. Quote, society is demanding that companies, both public and private, serve a social purpose, Fink wrote. To prosper over time, every company must not only deliver financial performance, but also show how it makes a positive contribution to society. Fink also let it be known that if a company doesn't engage with the community and have a sense of purpose, it will ultimately lose the license to operate from key stakeholders. When they say lose the license to operate, that's business mafia talk for saying we're going to put you out of business. It doesn't mean they can really put the company out of business, but they can make problems for them. In December, Florida pulled $2 billion worth of state assets managed by BlackRock. Quote, I think it's undemocratic of major asset managers to use their power to influence societal outcomes, Governor Ron DeSantis said at the time. Fink has denied that ESG is political, but key staff managing his ESG operations worked in the Obama administration and donate to Senators Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. ESG and CEI proponents say that adhering to socially conscious values when investing and managing a company will make the world a better place. Not everyone agrees. Derek Kreifels is the co-founder and CEO of State Financial Officers Foundation, one of several financial officers fighting ESG on a national level. He calls ESG a highly subjective political score infiltrating all walks of life, forcing progressive policies on everyday Americans and resulting in higher prices at the pump and at the store. The Corporate Equality Index is an ominous cog in ESG's wheel, Kreifels told the Post. The problem with measures like CEI and its big brother ESG is that it introduces an incentive structure outside the bounds of business, often in ways contradictory to fiduciary duty, Kreifels said. A fiduciary duty is the legal responsibility to act solely in the best interest of another party. Fiduciary means trust, and a person with a fiduciary duty has a legal obligation to maintain that trust. For example, lawyers have a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of their clients. If you're managing a company for someone else, it's not your company that you own. You have a fiduciary duty to look out for what's best for the owners of that company. If you're on the board of directors of a company, you have a duty, a responsibility to do what's in the best interest of shareholders, not society at large, according to Obama administration officials pushing a progressive agenda. To your shareholders. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.